So today I thought it would be fun to try a little thought experiment to see how each generation of people would react to a future deprived of technology. I can't say for certain how technology will come to an end. Maybe a solar flare that sends out an EMP that wipes out the circuitry of satellites and computers, or a cyber attack that sends out a computer virus that destroys computers, or even sentient AI that determines that humans do not need their technology and pulls the plug. Regardless, I think it would be fun to think about this kind of scenario, which I will call the event. The how is not important. As for the when, I suspect that such a scenario could unfold within the next 10 to 20 years. This is not entirely implausible. As an American, I will focus on the generations as per accepted American standards, but the entire developed world will feel the situation equally, so every country's conventions will apply. Some countries will feel the effects worse than others, and undeveloped or underdeveloped countries will have the least impact, but overall, the impact will be felt globally. And I will focus on the generations from baby boomers to Generation Alpha. Based on age data and forecast, the median age for the silent generation will be approximately 100 years old at that time. For the ones who survive that long, most will be dependent on hospitals and medical technology to survive, so they would not be able to survive long after the event. Others will be infirm or handicapped and will not be able to have an effective strategy to deal with the situation. This leaves the youngest among them, whom I will group with the older boomers. So let's start with the baby boomers. These will be those adults who are above 70 years old at that time, with the median age being around 80. They are all senior citizens and mostly retirees. Because of their age, they will be the least affected by the loss of technology. And I could totally hear a collective sigh of good riddance from that generation. They were born in a world where that technology didn't exist or only existed in its infancy, so they learned to live without it. If there is one adjective I can use to describe the boomer generation, it is industrious. They will be the most prepared to live in a technology free world. Their first concern will be the well being of their families, and they will protect their families and the younger generations fervently. They will prepare the Gen Xers and older millennials to fend for themselves. So, for the younger generations lucky enough to have family in this generation, they will be well prepared for this scenario. Next, let's look at Generation X. In this scenario, Generation Xers will be between 55 and 80 with the average age of 65 years. Roughly speaking, they are middle age who are just looking into retirement. They will be the most negatively affected by this scenario, as their entire wealth that they have been accumulating up to this point will be completely wiped out, which is fine since currency itself will have no more value. If there is one adjective I can use to describe Xers, it's resourceful. This generation will find a way to survive without the need for technology. And especially with the boomers' support, they will continue to thrive. Some will even begin to recreate the technology that had already been wiped out. But this process will take years and possibly even decades, and they will not have the comfort of that much time. Some of the smarter Xers will have already begun preparing for this scenario decades before the event. For the younger Xers, some will complain, why me? And scramble just to be able to continue to survive. They will fall into hard times, but they will weather the storm, so to speak. As for the millennials, they will be working age adults at that time, with the median age around 50. These, who have grown up with technology and haven't lived in a world without it, will be suddenly thrown into a state of shock. The adjective I would use to describe millennials is resilience. First, they would seek the advice of the older Gen Xers and baby boomers if they have that option available. They would be the first to organize and form a community. Many would question how such a scenario could possibly happen. Others would immediately get to work mitigating the negative impacts of the event. They would work with the Gen Xers to rebuild the lost technology. But overall, their numbers and their strategy would keep them safe. This is not so for Generation Z. As the first generation born in an internet connected world, they would be thrown into complete confusion. By that time, this generation will be mostly young adults with a median age hovering at about 35. As a generation of complainers, they would be the first to point fingers at the ones they suspected to have caused this catastrophe, namely the boomers and the older Gen Xers. They will have no strategy to deal with this scenario, and instead heed the advice of their millennial older brothers and sisters and their Gen X parents. They will begrudgingly do what they are told, but they will not be happy about living in a world without technology, and they will constantly make their opinion known. But they won't do anything to ease the situation any. Some older Gen Zers will be technologically savvy, banding with the millennials and younger Gen Xers to rebuild the lost technology. Finally, as for Generation Alpha, they will be completely lost without technology. Alphas, who would mostly be young adults at around 20 years at this time, will be at a loss as to what to do without the support of their technology. Many alphas will still be children, albeit older children. They will complain incessantly, many whining to their millennial parents, and they will wait until their livelihoods are restored. Waiting is all they know how to do without technology, even though they aren't very good at it. They are an impatient lot and can't imagine surviving in a slow paced, technology deprived world. They just wouldn't know how to use their time. Without being able to check their social media and watching online videos every 5 minutes, they would sulk and skulk around, living like zombies in a world they couldn't possibly even imagine. I am aware that Generation Beta will be a thing as well, but their average age would be about 10 years old, and they would rely on their parents more than anything. So I am grouping their entire generation with the Alphas. The Beta generation would still be ongoing at the time, and in fact, some Betas would not even have been born yet if the event happened sooner rather than later. So, what do you think of my assessment of the generational response to this scenario? Do you think these are accurate responses to this kind of event? Keep in mind that I don't believe all individuals fall into the same cookie cutter definition of their respective generations. Certainly, there would be some resourceful alphas and Gen Zers, or complaining boomers and Gen Xers, and everything in between. But overall, this seems to be a rather definitive characterization. But I want to hear your opinion, so tell me what you think. Which generation are you, and how do you think you would react to this particular scenario? Feel free to leave a comment and give this video a like. Thank you. Take care.